Hello everyone. I know it's been a while since I did one of these, but I couldn't help myself from just talking about the stuff I love. And today we're going to be talking about sampling. I absolutely adore sampling. I love every aspect of it. I think it's an art form in every right. Either it be DJ sampling drum breaks for MCs to rap on, or producers sampling bass lines from funk songs, or a jazz singer to serve as their vocal hook in a rap song. And it's funny because one of the most popular episodes on this channel is the J Dilla and Donuts video, and it's completely factually wrong in almost every regard ever since that book came out. But anyway, I want to talk about some other unspoken rules of sampling, what I like to call sampling politics. And when it comes to sampling politics, it's like the social dynamics and the unspoken rules when it comes to what is sampled and how it's sampled. And to do that, I want to talk about the history of sampling a little bit and kind of forge our path from there. I present to you sampling politics. I don't know if I should keep that in. Whatever, we'll keep that in.
This episode was brought to you by viewers like you.
Please give us money, patreon.com.
Thank you.
Sampling starts from this little machine, the turntable, where at an after-school hangout, a man by the name of DJ Kool Herc or Clive Campbell would amaze everyone by manipulating and repeating drum breaks on this turntable, physically moving them and scratching the record, birthing what we know today as hip-hop. And from then on, sampling became the backbone of it, with iconic records such as DJ Shadow's Introducing, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and the already mentioned Donuts by J Dilla having samples at the forefront of the production. This brings me to the first aspect of sampling politics. I think it's easier if I just show you two examples and we'll talk about each one and compare them.
Conductor.
First is the interpolation of Eiffel 65's Blue. Oh, and just to make sure there is no confusion, an interpolation is basically the same as sampling, so I'll interchange the words here and there. Anyways, Blue was a pretty huge song either for its infamous music video or just the iconic chorus. People know the song, and I don't think David Guetta and Bebe Rexha interpolation of it really does anything. They don't really add nor make it their own. It's insanely lazy of them. To make their own lazy version of a classic just doesn't really give me a reason to pick it over the original. It just feels and seems soulless. For some reason, David Guetta recently has just been shamelessly sampling these iconic songs and making unmemorable versions of them. He made one sampling the iconic Hathaway record What Is Love and then threw Coi Leray on it, and just this uninspired attempt to revive a classic that didn't really need reviving. It honestly is a shame considering how big of a hitmaker he was when he was in his own element in the early 2010s, making classics like Titanium or Play Hard. Dude has talent, just wish he would kind of pivot away from the recent stuff he's been doing. Now let's take a look at a great example of sampling something iconic and well known.
Motherfucker, I kill. Copyright my shit cause weird bitches like to steal. Don't call me Millie for no reason. Went from broke to getting mills. I keep laughing all the way to regions. I just signed a new...
Flo Milli absolutely kills the iconic Lil Wayne beat A Milli, while her paying homage while making it her own, even though she samples the beat and just by her charisma and bars shining through. It's a great homage, but at the same time being modern with her truly trying to give you a real reason to pick this over the original. It's a clever and great sample pick. This leads me to the aspect of sample politics, which is sampling popular or extremely well-known songs. Now with sampling, especially in hip-hop, 90% of the samples are from genres and songs that the average listener has never heard of. Most of the time, or at least in my personal experience, I've been under the premise that the producer or artist made them originally, but then to my surprise, I dig a little further and actually find out that it was sampled and interpolated by a song I wouldn't have found otherwise. This is one of the awesome parts of sampling, shining light on songs and genres through hip-hop. That's why I compared two pretty drastically different songs, a house EDM feel-good party anthem and a strictly bars abrasive rap song. It's because they both sample something super iconic and both have varied degrees of success, with one completely faltering and one being able to stand out on its own. If you're going to sample a well-known, a classic even, then you need to make sure it's able to shine with originality and creativity. That isn't the case with lesser known songs. Due to how you can implement them, you can get away with sampling a little more lazier than others. Of course the effort shows, but it isn't as abrasive as me sampling Justin Bieber's Baby and changing the words of something stupid, I don't know, like Save Me or Rabies. Anyway, I do believe that the worth of a sample is embedded in in how much effort is put by the producers to make it stand out on its own merit. However, sampling isn't just some nameless database of drum breaks and bass lines. Someone made those things originally, which brings me to my second point of sample politics: sampling without the creator's consent. Now, to get a song officially and legally within the rights to use it, you need to 1. Get the permission of the artist and / the rights holder, and 2. Pay a clearance fee and most likely pay royalties to that party for the use of the sample. But let's just say 1. You don't have the money to do that, and 2. Don't really care. Well, it's not like anyone will stop you, more or less. There are hundreds of thousands of artists on Spotify who sample in almost their entire discography aren't punished for it at all, most likely due to their small size and flying under the radar, and to the fact they aren't really making enough to warrant the rights owner to even go through just to purge like 10 cents the artist is making. But there have actually been some interesting cases of an artist who sampled something that would definitely cause issues for them in their infancy, and then later blew up and actually removed or changed the sample completely. My personal example is Malcolm Todd. I was a pretty early fan of his stuff, starting by finding his music through his first EP, Demos Before Prom, and after that he released one of my favorite songs of his called What's Up. And one of my favorite aspects of the song is that he uses the iconic Mario Kart race start sound effect to serve as a bridge for the beat drop. It's really cool. Here's a quick snippet of it. However, recently I noticed when the song came up on shuffle that he completely changed the sound that plays, most likely due to something getting on his ass about the sample and him rightfully just taking the easy route and changing it. He replaced it with his really out of place 808 kick. Let me play it for you real quick. I just find stuff like that so interesting because you would only notice that if you were there, you know? It also shows how a sample, even if uncleared, can add so much more personality to a song. I deeply miss the Mario Kart sound effect, and hopefully someday he's big enough where you can legally use it. But then there's people who just end up not caring at all. Take a guy like Childish Gambino, who had one of his first breakout songs sampling Adele, a sample that he would have never been able to clear at the time. And now it's a cult classic in the beloved blog era of hip-hop mixtapes. There are a lot of benefits and negatives to using uncleared samples. But what about songs and artists who clear the same sample? What I find interesting about this is that it's almost an unspoken rule when it comes to producing, where whoever samples something first the best usually is attached to that sample forever, sometimes just being known as a sample for X song instead of being known as its own song. For example, the second I play this,
Conductor, conductor. Conductor, 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 conductor. Conductor.
You're more than likely going to immediately associate it with the legendary Jay-Z song 444, but not with the Tyler the Creator song Ziploc, or the Red Veil's 444 Freestyle, or the countless other artists who have had their hand on this sample. And you more than definitely recognize the Jay-Z song more than the actual original sample, Late Night and Heartbreaks by Hannah Williams and the Affirmations, who have rightfully gained notoriety and popularity through Jay-Z sampling them. But what about when it's the reverse, when a smaller artist gets their claim to a sample first and kind of taints it for everyone else? For me, that was the case when I was listening to Kenny Beats' fantastic 2022 album Louis. On track 3, Hold My Head, Kenny Beats samples Now I Can Hold My Head Up High by the Triads, a 1975 funk band that absolutely kills making a beat centered around that sample. It's one of my favorites off that album. But then just of last year, a relatively bigger artist, Trippie Redd, released his album A Love Letter to You 5, with track 18 The Hate also sampling that Triads record. Both are great songs, but the Kenny Beats one is streamed 10 times the amount than the Trippie one, even despite their monthly listeners being mountains apart. I just find it super interesting to see how the same sample can be interpreted differently and recrafted in so many ways. Take for example Remind Me by Patrice Rushen off her 1982 album Straight From the Heart. I'll play a little bit of it and try to think of the first song that comes to your head.
Conductor, conductor. Conductor, 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 conductor. Conductor.
Now, if you couldn't think of a single song that samples this, I would be surprised, because there are 117 songs that sample just this one. You have Junior Mafia doing their thing with it on I Need You Tonight and throwing Aaliyah on it, Mary J. Blige, Common, Faith Evans, Slum Village, and even Amiri, all doing different things even though using the same elements of the sample. They all feel different just in the slightest. My favorite use of the sample has to be split between Junior Mafia and Faith Evans' use of it. They are both just absolute bangers. Also, necessary side piece here. On that Patrice Rushen album, there's also another iconic sample. Yes, that song is a sample for the Forget Me Not emo in Fortnite. I was listening to this album in my calc class, and it was almost like a shot to the head when this song came out, and I instantly connected it to Fortnite. Anyway, moving on. Another unspoken rule that can be quite honestly pretty serious to producers, especially ones that aren't label backed, is the concept of sample snitching. Sample snitching is when an independent artist's song interpolates something and a random person tracks down the sample and gets credit to the sample owner. If that record gets enough attention, it can spell pretty bad trouble for the producer/artist artist who is 9 times out of 10 in the situation working independently and cannot afford a full-blown lawsuit. A sample snitch could be as simple as a couple guys in a YouTube comment or nowadays TikTok comments. Pitchfork actually did this really interesting article about sample snitching and cited this Rock Marciano interview where he said this.
I'm not with rules, man. There are no rules, but sample snitching is a no-no. Stop telling people what people use. I guess with the internet, you can't control it, and people just want to share with the people. When they start typing, it's innocent. It's not like they're trying to do it. I've had people hit me up about sample sets that I put out. They've said, yo, I got like 6 of the samples. Can you help me find the other ones? And I'm thinking, you're gonna get me sued.
Like Rock says, it stems from just fans being innocent and wanting to share the possible knowledge of stuff they love. But a lot of the time it comes jeopardizing the actual artist when the fans get it right and reveal it. At the same time, however, there's a sort of fun mystery aspect of not knowing an obscure sample that the artist or producer spent who knows how long searching for and unraveling that mystery as a fan. It really is something uncontrollable like Rock says, but just something that we fans and consumers of the culture should be aware of. Sample snitching overall, I feel, is a pretty under-talked about term within the hip-hop community, so I wanted to shed some much needed light on it. I've been talking a lot about how much I love sampling and the social inner politics within it, but recently there has been this angle of discussion when it comes to quote-unquote modern hip-hop and the laziness that persists within the production side of it. Before I dive into it deeper, I do want to preface this part with the now famous MTV interview where Prince gives his thoughts on sampling.
Pretty soon we'll be sampling the sample that was already sampled.
It seems that so much that is sampled, producers already sampled that sample that has already been sampled, almost creating this chain of unoriginality. Again, sampling in no form is lazy, but it can be super uninspired if you don't have the creative ability with it. I do believe a lot of this discussion should be attributed to the resources and equipment on our hands now in comparison to producers in the golden age of hip-hop. They just objectively had more limits and constraints, but somehow were able to be super creative with it. In our current age, sample-based production can be super simplified and accessible, which is also objectively a great thing, but at the same time it does open the way for a lot more lazily produced records, which is a product a lot of people seem to be complaining about recently. Personally, I see the issue, but I don't think people actually realize how much they control the things they consume. The amount of talent out there is at an all-time high. There has not been a point in time in hip-hop where we have so much talent under our noses. Even if hip-hop as a genre has been quote-unquote dying when it comes to sales and numbers, consumers or just people in general need to try listening to new stuff, and there will be people that surprise them without a doubt. Trying to pin it on the beautiful art form of sampling as the downfall of hip-hop is ridiculous. Yes, there has been plenty of mainstream artists who have lazily taken advantage of producing a pretty weak product, but there are even more that would blow you away with how they sample. It's all just a perception of it. If you search for the talent, you will eventually find it. Being okay with mediocrity will just further discredit the art form that and I'm assuming the person watching this loves, and it's our job to try and uplift those instead of just spreading the stuff we don't like around all the time.
I love hip-hop, and I really appreciate being able to participate and indulge in the culture and the genre. A lot of my personal heroes are people that are in hip-hop, are artists, you know? And I really appreciate the inspiration and the creativity they've embedded in me as a creative in many different fields. And with that said, I know YouTube is going to copyright the out of me when it comes to all the music I want to use, but I'm going to find a way to use it all, I hope so. So I appreciate it if you give us a subscription. It's free if you can't give us, $1 or whatever. Comments is always really cool, a like. We are completely self-funded, so if you want to check out our Patreon where there's behind the scenes of how everything's edited, how all that stuff is done. If you're into that production side of stuff, there's a whole really detailed video on that. Pretty sure should be out by the time this video is out. And yeah, I love sampling, and I hope you did after this too. And I will see you in the next episode.